Imagine peering into an antique mirror only to watch a stranger drown in their own breathless reflection, then realizing the glass has just whispered your boyfriend's name. Tonight's tale drags us behind that gleaming surface into a world where every murder is a performance, every victim forced to witness their own demise, and one terrified woman must choose whether to flee or face the horror head-on before the mirror claims its next soul. I'd always thought of my life as ordinary. Never dull exactly, just comfortably predictable. That illusion shattered the night I walked past Caleb's antique, gilt-edged mirror and saw a stranger suffocating behind the glass. Caleb and I met in the frozen foods aisle of the neighborhood supermarket, one of those silly, reach-for-the-same bag of peas encounters that makes rom-coms sound plausible. He was charming in a slightly old-world way, neatly trimmed beard, pressed shirts, an easy smile that suggested patience more than arrogance. When he asked for my number, I surrendered it without hesitation. Within weeks, dinners became overnights, and soon I was spending more time in his sprawling Victorian on Hawthorne Lane than in my downtown studio. That house fascinated me. Every room was curated like a museum exhibit. Heavy velvet drapes, oil paintings whose eyes seemed to follow, and, centerpiece of it all, a 7-foot cheval mirror in his study. He called it my favorite looking glass, claiming its beveled silver-backed glass made colors pop. Hotels never flatter me, he'd joke, patting the frame as if it were alive. I'd laughed along, a little bemused. Caleb was quirky. Quirky is endearing. At least it was, until the mirror decided to reveal its true purpose. That Friday began innocently. Caleb kissed my forehead, whispered he'd be gone overnight, another consulting gig for his antique restoration business, and hurried out before dawn. I stayed behind to grade my students' essays. By evening my eyes ached, so I roamed the quiet halls to stretch. I remember humming as I rounded the study door, fingertips skimming the silk wallpaper pattern. The mirror stood across from me, catching moonlight, its surface pale and depthless. Then, as casually as one blinks, the room around me warped. The glass darkened, rippled, and a man appeared, dangling by a rope. His feet kicked, his tongue protruded, eyes bulged, and a rasp, half-gasp, half-voiceless plea scratched against the silence. Blood seeping from his nostrils painted his upper lip an ugly maroon. I screamed. The tray of tea I'd been carrying shattered on the Persian rug. Reflex forced my gaze away. Instinct dragged it right back. Because the man wasn't hanging in the study. The study remained tidy behind me. No rope, no body. Only inside the mirror did his agony exist, framed like a macabre portrait. And this nearly stopped my heart, he looked straight at me. His lips worked around words he had no air to produce. Help. I bolted, slipping on porcelain shards, stumbling down the hallway until my back met the front door. I fumbled with locks, burst into the night, and drove away, sobbing so violently I could barely keep the car between lines. I spent that night at a 24-hour diner, nursing coffee until sunrise. Logic tried soothing me. Stress, misfire of neurons, surely a hallucination. My pulse refused reason. The man's pleading eyes chased me each time I blinked. Near dawn, I replayed the moment frame by frame and realized something crucial. His mouth wasn't mouthing a generic plea. It was shaping syllables. Kailub. His head jerked with each choking convulsion, but the name was unmistakable. My coffee went cold. The waitress asked if I needed anything. Answers, I thought. Courage. Curiosity devoured terror by mid-morning. If I'd imagined it, the mirror would show nothing unusual. If I hadn't, I returned. The house greeted me with heavy stillness. Dust motes drifted like suspended guilt. I inhaled once, braced, stepped into the study. The mirror's glass welcomed me with an empty reflection, bookshelves, sunlit rug, my tremoring figure. Relief hit, bitter and sweet. I edged closer. Then the surface shivered like disturbed water, and new shapes congealed. 5 figures now dangled, ropes creaking in soundless breeze. Men and women both, skin mottled purple. Their eyes rolled toward me in eerie unison. Their mouths opened. He kills us. He uses this glass. You're next. Unless, run. The voices weren't audible yet. My mind heard them as loudly as if they'd been shouted. I stumbled back, colliding with a shelf. A marble bookend toppled, splitting my thumbnail, though I barely felt it over the surge of ice running down my spine. I tore myself away, hands over ears, though the chorus resounded inside my skull. Caleb called that evening to say he missed me. His voice, usually velvet, now scraped my nerves raw. I stuttered an excuse, grating backlog, and said I'd see him Sunday night. Those 48 hours I became detective, hacker, insomniac. I searched missing person databases, local news archives, obituaries. Patterns emerged like bruises under skin, travelers passing through our county, drifters without close kin, names forgotten, but photos eerily similar to the faces in the mirror. Single bruises around the neck on recovery, cause of death inconclusive or chalked up to suicide. Blood drummed my temples. My boyfriend of 4 months wasn't quirky. He was a predator with a portable theater of cruelty. The mirror was his sadistic projector. I vomited into the kitchen sink, rinsed my mouth, and prepared the next step. Sunday dinner felt like a masquerade. Caleb complimented my pasta, my dress, my every forced smile. I observed everything, the careful way he wiped sauce from his lip, the faint rope burn on his left inner wrist, maybe old, maybe new. When I casually asked about his clients, he offered bland details about heirloom desks, water rings, and French polish. My heart hammered louder with each lie, yet my face practiced serenity. By dessert, I pressed a tiny AirTag, coated in matte nail polish, inside the mirror's bottom molding while he fetched wine. My breath barely dared stir air. 2 nights later, he announced another business trip. He carried the mirror, wrapped in a thick blanket, out to his van. "I know it's odd," he said, catching my look, "but hotel lighting is dreadful. The glass is my lucky charm." He kissed me, promising a souvenir. I waved from the porch, phone already open to track the signal. The dot crawled west along State Route 64, then detoured onto rural back roads until it halted in the middle of nowhere, coordinates hugging the forest line near an abandoned farm listed in county records as condemned. I dialed 911, thumb hovering over call, but a dispatcher might not reach there in time, and I couldn't risk alerting Caleb before they arrived. He might kill again or vanish. So I drove. The gun in my glove box, a relic from my late father's misguided need to protect, suddenly felt both alien and necessary. The night was moonless, windless, a suffocating hush that thickened as gravel turned to dirt beneath tires. My headlights finally revealed a sagging shed beside a collapsed farmhouse, both grey bones against darker trees. Caleb's van crouched outside, mirror leaning against its open rear doors like a conspiring sentinel. I cut the engine, heart ricocheting. Muffled sobs wafted from within the shed. I approached, crunch of leaves deafening. Through a slit in the rotted plank, I saw Caleb fastening rope around a trembling teenage boy suspended from a beam. The mirror stood propped opposite, devouring the scene. Caleb's face, so gentle in candle-lit dinners, was now taut, eyes gleaming with fanatical delight. He whispered into the boy's ear, words I couldn't catch but felt contaminating the air. Something primal broke loose inside me. I leveled the pistol. My finger twitched. Bang! Caleb screamed, clutching his thigh as he crumpled. The rope jerked. The boy gasped. I rushed in, slicing the knot with Caleb's own hunting knife left on a crate. The boy sobbed upon landing, collapsing into my arms. We bound Caleb with torn extension cords, ignoring his howl of outrage. I grabbed his phone, used it to illuminate the dirt-caked floor while dialing emergency services on mine. But before I could speak, Caleb's agonized shriek careened into hysteria. His gaze was fixed on the mirror. 8. In the glass, a dozen silhouettes materialized, swelling from fog. Faces, blue, blackened, contorted, pressed against the inside surface as though straining to burst forth. Their collective stare burned with hatred. And justice. "Do you see?" Caleb whispered, voice shredded with terror. "Do you see what you made me do?" He thrashed against cords, kicking wildly. The mirror rocked, crack. A fissure spider-webbed across the glass. Caleb's panic crescendoed. Another kick, and the mirror detonated into glittering shards. The air pulsed. Everything paused, as if existence inhaled. Then a rip, like fabric tearing, opened where the mirror had been. From that void, arms of darkness slithered, tipped with claws glowing ember red. The spirits emerged too, luminous where the demons were shadow. They seized Caleb's shoulders, pinning him down as the clawed horrors wrapped around his legs. He shrieked a plea for me, for God, for anyone. The ground softened beneath him, transforming to churning black soil. I dragged the boy backward, feet slick with fear. We watched, in paralyzed awe and revulsion, as Caleb was hauled inch by screaming inch into the earth. The soil closed over his head, cutting off his final gargled wail. Silence. Then the luminous figures turned to us. Their faces lost the torment that had etched them. Relief replaced agony. One woman, tears frozen on translucent cheeks, mouthed thank you. A warm light gathered behind them, expanding until it radiated like dawn. They drifted toward it, their outlines dissolving into brilliance. When the light dimmed, only leaves stirred. 9 sirens eventually sliced the night. Deputies found 2 shell-shocked survivors clutching each other, surrounded by shattered glass and a gaping pit too deep to see bottom. Search teams, digging equipment, even a cadaver dog the next day reported nothing but solid earth. Caleb and every shard of that mirror were gone. My statement took hours. The boys took longer. The sheriff's skepticism melted only when tests confirmed rope fibers and blood matching several cold case victims on confiscated items from Caleb's van. Without the mirror, though, much remained unprovable. The official story labelled Caleb Serrano missing, suspect in multiple homicides. A manhunt began, doomed never to find him. I attended group therapy for survivors of violent crime. I adopted a cat. Sounds innocuous, but reclaiming ordinary life is rebellion against horror. Still, some nights, reflection unsettles me. Literally. I covered every mirror in my apartment for months. Even now, I catch myself pausing before polished surfaces, waiting for them to ripple. The boy, Elias, sends postcards from college. We share a secret no language can articulate without sounding mad. When we hug goodbye, our ribs remember the other's frantic heartbeat. I've kept one souvenir, though, a broken sliver of Caleb's mirror I found lodged in my coat lining. I keep it wrapped in cloth inside a locked drawer. Call it morbid, but I need the reminder. Evil once wore a gentle smile across my breakfast table. Sometimes I unwrap the shard and tilt it to the light. Its surface remains plain, only my wary eyes staring back. Yet occasionally, when the room is very quiet, I think I hear distant voices, no longer in pain, whispering gratitude through the glass. and I whisper back, promising them they are not forgotten, because I am living proof that monsters hiding behind ordinary faces can be dragged into the dark they worship, and that even the most cursed of mirrors can still reflect courage if someone dares to look.